we continue to diversify our international business sector by creating a business ecosystem that allows businesses to actually thrive and highlighting those value propositions within our ecosystem, whether it's a strong regulatory environment, whether it's us providing the legal clarity, whether it's a government that is responsive to industry's needs, providing a safe and secure environment to operate. All of those factors we ensure that we factor into our decision making as it pertains to expanding our environment that supports industry's growth and development.
Thank you so much. Finland.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be here. For Finland, resilience and security, it has been very much in the core of our thinking because of the historical reasons. For a long time, whether we talk about like hardcore defense forces, we always kept our defense spending and the military service in a good shape, but also in resilience and what is called nowadays economic security. So that thinking has been there for decades, and we have developed a model called comprehensive security. And so where the civil sector, the private sector companies, together with the public sector and the third sector, are building a sort of total security that provides security for the whole society in all kinds of crises. Then we also have the agency under my ministry called the National Emergency Supply Agency, and we have 26 different pools there, hundreds of companies like chemical industries, the financial markets, water, you name it. And so different supply security pools that are focused on their respective sector, guaranteeing those circumstances, functioning of the sectors in all circumstances. It's easier said than done. I mean, there are limitations, but the foundation is there, and that model actually attracts quite a lot of interest. So, but of course, like what we saw in the opening panel in this summit, it's pretty much today about technology and AI and high tech, and that's not what a small country can do alone. But we have certain edges, certain key technologies that we are world leading or very good, and we can provide that, and we can be interesting an interesting partner for the others to be part of these alliances and partnerships. And of course we are like diversifying our supply chains, and that's very wise these days when there's so much unpredictability. So yes, it's quite challenging at environment, but still we are also trying to sort of fit into and actually prosper in the current circumstances.
Thank you, Excellency. And we're going to touch on the economic security and diversification just at the end. I'm going to turn specifically to you, Minister Bilal. The post-COVID governments, as we all have dealt with, they're still operating under tighter global financial conditions, right? You are Minister of Finance, you know that very well, so capital is more selective. Fiscal space is far more constrained for you. Interest rates are still high, they're going down, but they're still very high. So attracting investment, and specifically FDI, is very competitive and very tricky. How are you unlocking private investment? How is Pakistan's economy being more investable under your leadership?
That's a very apt question. So I think firstly, let's talk about the costs, right? And you've talked about the interest rate. A couple of years ago, we had a policy rate of 22%. That's now down to 10.5%. We managed to bring inflation down from the mid-20s to mid-single digits, which enabled the policy rate to come down. The other thing we have done is we've reduced or tried to reduce commercial and industrial electricity tariffs. And currently, we are also hoping to reduce our tax rates. But in addition to the costs, which make industrial activity competitive in the country, I think the regulatory drag is another aspect that we have really focused on as a country. We've established a special investment facilitation council, which serves as a one-window operation for investors. So once an entity has decided or is seriously deliberating investing in Pakistan, that is the one stop where they are able to approach, and that one place, the SIFC, enables coordination across governments, because we are a federal government with 4 provincial governments, 2 regional governments on top of that, and then you have local government related issues as well. And businesses, when they're looking to invest, have to deal with all these tiers of government. So we've established that entity. In addition to that, we've also initiated regulatory reforms, where we're trying to cut down processes and time across the board. And we are also working with our regulators to try and ensure that the processes at their end can also be slower. I'll share a small story, which is actually a UAE story in Pakistan and very recent. Mashriq Bank, which is a UAE-based bank, recently launched their digital banking operations in Pakistan, and I had the pleasure of being there, and our Prime Minister actually launched that entity in Pakistan, or was hosting the launch event. And so I was very pleased to hear from the Mashriq Bank team that a process that could take up to 5 years in other countries took them less than 1 year from concept to operations. Wow. And not only that, they moved their global corporate middle office to Pakistan as well, where they've hired 450 Pakistanis, and they managed to develop their entire tech stack in Pakistan. So that's 450 new jobs in the global corporate middle office, working on risk, compliance, tech. So we have stories like this, and we hope to continue, creating an enabling environment, both in terms of cost and in terms of regulatory ease.
Thank you so much. I think we all have so much to learn from UAE in that space. But I'll turn to you, Minister Jason. We all talk about investing smart. What does it mean in Bermuda today to invest smart? And maybe you can give us an example on how that illustrates in terms of economic impact.
So investing smart. Smart investments are forward and future investments, sustainable investments. Mm-hmm. And so when we look into it from a Bermuda context, when we look at investing in Bermuda and where we can get the most bang for our buck, we look at investing in things such as technology, mm-hmm. investing in digital economies. Right now we are on the cusp of rolling out a digital economy strategy. The digital economy strategy will seek to enable the private sector to utilize technology in a greater capacity. It will ensure how we integrate digital technology into all government services so that government services are efficient. It will be ensuring that we have the digital infrastructure that's required to power the future economy, as well as ensuring that we invest in people. And the investment in people means that we have the human capacity to actually thrive in not just the current world of work, but the future world of work. And so when we look at what a smart investment is, and a smart investment is creating a value ecosystem in a country that has sustainable results.
Thank you. And actually, that's a great transition into my next question. So let me bring you in here, Minister. We are all seeing massive investment in AI today and advanced technologies. Yet, not all of it is actually translating into higher productivity and jobs. Yeah. What is, in your opinion, the most single important critical ingredient that makes innovation policy that you're making deliver real economic impact across the whole economy and not only the high-tech sectors?
That's a complex question for sure, but I think it's like we are increasing the research, development and innovation spending actually quite drastically. So we aim at having 4% R&D innovation spending in 2030. So very fast, like in 4 years. And one critical reason that place is actually almost on top of the world, like top 3, top 5 maybe, mm-hmm. with South Korea and some other countries. And one of the reasons why we are doing it, actually it increases our ability to absorb whatever happens. And as I think it was the chairman of IBM who said this morning that technology it's like an amplifier, basically, that you need all the finances, you need the regulation, but technology is what multiplies. Multiplier was the word that he used. And I think that talking about smart investment, it's exactly like you said, and we need to find these like niches. We have the sort of broad educational basis there, we have the broad research, development capabilities, solid foundation. So it's absurd, but then we need to have the multiplier with certain key emphasis areas. And some of these smart investments, they can be actually done with relatively small capital also. For instance, we have I would say at the European scale, we are number one together with Sweden in minerals. We have done 150 years of mineral reserves, like mapping. And now when we have AI, we can combine those world-class resources with data and AI analytics. So with a quite a sort of small capital investment, we can leverage a lot.
Thank you so much, Excellency. And that's going to bring me to diversification, and maybe, Jason, you can help me on that question. So diversification today is at the center of economic strategy, and UAE is a great example of that. And globally, we're seeing diversification in many forms, in trading partners, different sectors, even currency exposure with the dollar-gold debate today, right? So what are you diversifying away from, and what are you diversifying towards?
And so we haven't taken the approach we're moving away from the core pillars of our economy. We've taken the approach to look at how we can utilize what we have and advance it and create verticals. And so we have a strong insurance industry. So now we're talking about InsurTech. We are a global financial center. So now we're talking about how we can integrate digital finance into our ecosystem as well. And so we are the leaders on digital finance regulation currently in Bermuda, and how we can expand that industry. And so when we look at diversification, we look at shoring up our core sectors, and then looking at how we can utilize the expertise developed in those core sectors for growth in other areas within the economy. But obviously, being an island in the middle of the Atlantic, the blue economy is important, our green economy is important, our energy mix is also an important factor of the way in which we will move forward.
Thank you so much. So we've covered diversification, financing, smart investment, but resilience today is obviously not only economic and financial, it's also geopolitical, right? So let's touch just briefly on that. Minister Bilal, we'll start with you. Pakistan sits in Asia. It is a strategic pillar of the Road and Belt Initiative. It maintains great relationship with the United States. It has seen significant Chinese investment in energy. How are you managing, the economic alignment across these partnerships without creating overexposure, if we can call it?
That's a great question, Doctor. And I must say, I'm as a Pakistani, I'm proud of the progress we've made on the foreign policy front, especially over the past year. We prevailed in a war that was imposed on us last year in May by our neighbor, and during the course of that war and after that, we have really, I think, strengthened our position globally on the world stage. And you've mentioned some of our key strategic partnerships, our key allies, and we have managed to conduct ourselves on the foreign policy front in a way where we've been able to strengthen each of those relationships concurrently, which is not easy in a fast-changing global geopolitical environment. And so I think the trick has been to deal with each of those relationships on their own merits, and at the same time, ensuring that the economic part of those relationships remains very central to the conversations. We have been able to get a relatively better tariff deal than many of our regional competitors from the US. And on top of that, everyone's aware of the fast-changing global environment, but at a time, and sometimes it seems like the walls are being raised, from an economic perspective, we've actually lowered our walls, we've reduced our tariffs we've actually launched a very bold tariff policy where we are planning to eliminate additional customs duties and regulatory duties over the course of 5 years completely, and to have a maximum custom duty slab of 15% across all products. I think that we realize that we need to ensure that the economic aspect of our foreign policy remains central to our discussions with our partners, and we use that to ensure that we can bring competitiveness into our economy and make that a source of diversification, especially for our exports, which is our central objective, as I mentioned earlier.
Thank you. That's a great answer. Thank you so much. Minister Sakari, I am dying to ask you about Greenland, but I will not. So we're going to leave that to Denmark. So on the geopolitical side, Finland is already part of the EU and NATO, right? So it's firmly anchored in a bloc. And as global fragmentation is increasing around the world, how are you preserving your flexibility, your competitiveness, while also managing the bloc and the internal politics in the bloc?
Yeah, so we actually have quite a lot of these frameworks. So we've been a member of the European Union more than 30 years, a member of NATO for 3 years now, 1 year after the invasion of Ukraine. And then we have a lot of these bilateral, I would say, alliances or multilateral alliances, like the UK-led Joint Expedition Force or the Nordic collaborators or the bilateral defense collaboration with the United States. So there are plenty, but I would say that flexibility and competitiveness. I think that, like for instance, the NATO membership, it actually provides us with plenty of opportunities because we get into these procurement channels with our defense sector. I mean, we've been like a long time like a very close partners to NATO, but we followed on the technological standards of NATO. But now we have a full access to the procurement cycle and also the innovation pathways such as the Diana, the Defense Innovation Accelerator Program. So I think it's a good combination. Yeah.
Thank you. Jason, Bermuda is, a small but highly open economy, and how do you avoid picking sides?
So the way in which Bermuda's positioned itself, we want to view ourselves as a beacon of stability in a world of uncertainty. And so just based off of the nature of the business that we're in, over the last decade, we've covered maybe over $1 trillion in losses worldwide. And so we provide a service to the entire world. And so we don't pick and choose whom we get in any sort of tussles with. That's not the business we're actually in. But we view our neighbors, the United States, not as a competitor. The United States views itself as the mighty eagle. And the way in which Bermuda positions itself is that we are a territory where the mighty eagle can come and lay its golden eggs. The same way Abu Dhabi views itself as the falcon economy. Well, the falcon can come to Bermuda as well and lay her golden eggs. And so this is the way in which we view our geopolitical situation. We believe that building economic partnerships and economic alliances actually better serves Bermuda and the world in terms of building partnerships that create value chains and build capacities so that we can all flourish.
Right, thank you so much. We're going to do, before we wrap up, we'll just do a short round of quick questions, quick answers, right? We'll start with you, Excellency. One sector you would bet on for the next 10 years?
Well, I would say that a good, well-functioning electric grid. Electric? Yeah.
Good. That's quick. Okay. One reform you wish you could implement tomorrow morning, Jason?
An entire digital economy.
Digital economy. One myth governments still think about investment?
That investments are about G2G. I think they're about B2B.
Wonderful.
And that's why I think businesses have to become more central to the dialogue between states.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but if there's maybe one takeaway from today is that resilient economies don't happen by accident. They're actually built through strong choices, strong institutions, strong leaders, and smart investments. Thank you all for this conversation. Let's give our speakers a round of applause.